seek above all for a game worth playing.
Oh baby, it's witchcraft contagious. I felt it for ages. We're out of these cages in this house of mages. It's witchcraft, it's dangerous. Beware of these pages. There's spells of all flavors in this house of mages. In this house of mages. In this house of mages.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Make Yoga Magick Again, the House of Mages podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Erulian Cuming. I am a mischievous mage, a lover of wisdom, a seeker of mysteries, and a ritual embodiment tantric yoga teacher trainer, amongst a myriad of many other weird and wonderful things. In this episode, I chat with embodiment enchantresses Elodie and Rhi. Elodie is a conscious sexuality experience practitioner, feminine embodiment guide, Reiki master, holistic counselor, yoga and meditation teacher, and a registered nurse. She's passionate about educating others on nervous system safety and empowering women to be in their unapologetic, fullest sensual and sexual expression. Elodie has run a business for the past 3 years in these realms and has facilitated events, workshops, retreats, and online programs. Elodie is a space holder, weaving ceremony and magic into her events, making them sacred and unique. A lover of nature and the outdoors, after completing a 4-day vision quest into the wilderness in 2021, Elodie's connection to nature-based practices evolved to complement her passion for paganism, runes, and the elements. Elodie has been a registered nurse for 7 years and loves to bridge the gap between science and spirit. Her online course, Soul School, teaches scientific-backed spiritual tools and techniques to cultivate a deeper, balanced awareness and full-spectrum spiritual experience. Elodie has journeyed extensively this past year with her own conditioned layers of sexual shame and judgment, and has been on a feminine embodiment journey, not being afraid to plumb the shadows of her inner landscape in her pursuit to reclaim her feminine energies and sensual power. Rihanna, aka Rhi, is a sensual bodyworker, conscious sexuality practitioner, event performer and coordinator, conscious kink practitioner, facilitator, and adventurer of both inner and outer worlds. Rhi has been actively learning and growing within the wellness space for over 6 years. This playful and exploratory journey has seen her delve into tantra, sacred sexuality, kink, vision quests, yoga, meditation, breathwork, deep nature connection, mental health, personal development, biohacking, indigenous epistemologies, and spiritual ecology. Rhi's background of leading groups into the wilderness has fostered a passion for transformative group experiences, inspiring her to create online accountability programs, facilitate meditations, and co-create a design metamorphosis, a sustainable fashion runway and market in Melbourne CBD. Rhi is a story weaver in a delicious blend of the many interconnected worlds in which she's traversed. She's a global citizen, has traveled the world in search of meaning to connect to her own personal legend or spiritual purpose, stopping at nothing until she finds her highest calling. Rhi has undertaken programs and started this overseas journey when she was only 15 years old. Rhi has broken through the layers of shame and conditioning, moving into a place of wholeness and a natural flow of pleasure. The knowledge of your deepest wounding and pain, often lighting the path to your greatest gift, has rung so true for Rhi. Searching for a calling all over the world has brought Rhi many rich experiences and the realization that the answer she was looking for was there all along. Her current focus is trauma awareness, utilizing boundaries and consent, embodiment practices, energy, and somatic awareness. I met Elodie and Rhi a few months ago here on the Sunshine Coast and feel like we've already shared many hilarious experiences and potent conversations when they shared with me their plans to take on the role of bearing the Erotic temple torch and to cultivate these transformative spaces here on the Sunshine Coast. I wanted to support them in any way I can. After chatting with them, we realized that having an open conversation here on the podcast about the common misconceptions and frequently asked questions about what erotic temple actually is, that can be used as a resource for those wanting to learn more about this work, and more specifically what these two powerful women are co-creating through this stream of Eros, seemed like the best way to do it. So if you've ever wondered what an erotic temple is, you're about to hear it from the perspective of two women who have deeply journeyed this path and have gotten so much transformative wisdom from it. They're now ready to support others in their own travels through this luscious liminal landscape. So without further ado, here's my chat with somatic psychonauts and embodiment archaeologists Elodie and Rhi. We are going to be chatting about a few different things, but the main topic for today is erotic temple culture, how it differs from many other things which we won't name at the moment, but they'll get into. But basically, we organised this because Rhi and Elodie are taking on the torch from the previous organisers of the temple nights that I think are much needed on the Sunshine Coast. And I'm really excited both for what they are going to be bringing with their unique flavour to this awesome endeavour that they are embarking upon, but also just to hear their journeys and how it's all kind of led up until this point. So if you maybe just want to introduce yourselves and then we'll get into it. So whoever wants to start.
Beautiful. You go first.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's such an honour to be with you both. It's an absolute blessing. So my journey up until here, I feel like that's a big question.
Yeah.
It's been a beautiful journey, and it's one that I've been on for a very long time. I think it's only a matter of time for me to end up where I am now. I've always been a very sensual, sexual, juiced up lady. And it was only a matter of time before the universe kind of guided me to where we are. So I was very lucky that when I was introduced to Elodie, she invited me to a temple night when I moved up to the coast about 9 months ago.
Yeah.
And from there, we'd been to quite a few, probably about 5 or 6 temples now from that moment. And it's kind of just been a snowball effect from then. So yeah, it's so much more to talk about, but there's a little snapshot.
Yeah, I've got a lot of questions I want to ask. We'll just get a quick little intro.
Love it. So yes, thanks for having me. So excited to be here, to be sharing this beautiful sensual, sexual healing journey work. My journey started maybe about 18 months ago, but similar to Rhi, like I always knew that I was quite a sensual, sexual woman underneath all the layers of conditioned shame and patriarchy and what have you. So it was only a matter of time before I too was brought here to this sacred space of, even having the confidence to even talk on this podcast about this topic. So yes, it's been quite a journey, but one that I'm so passionate about and very, very excited to share with others as well. So thank you.
Me too. Yeah, thank you guys. And we've actually for the last hour we've just been giggling and laughing about stuff because we're also friends. And I met you both kind of in funny ways because Elodie just called me over from a cafe because she coincidentally just listened to one of my podcasts right before the day before, you said?
Yeah, it was like the day before.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you called me over to what I thought was a date. I thought you were on a date and like called me over, and because the guy was like a little bit standoffish. So, but I'm glad you did. And then you came to one of my housewarming parties and brought Rhi, who amidst talking about Game of Thrones and trying to and me convincing her why it probably wasn't a good idea to throw a Game of Thrones themed party with all the like stuff that happens in Game of Thrones, but then also like spear tackled me to say goodbye, and we ended up choking each other out in our goodbyes, and now we're just great friends.
It's how the best friendships start.
It is how the best friendship. Take note, people. So I would love to just chat because I guess we were talking about making the title for this is it's not an orgy, right? And I have the same problem when I'm trying to explain, because I'm kind of, dancing around, like, explaining what a temple night is, and pretty much everyone's like, oh, so it's like an orgy. It's like, yeah. So how would you explain? If we were in this conversation and then we get to this point and I'm like, Rhi, oh, so it's like an orgy, what would you say? How would you explain a temple night? So I'll get both of you to explain individually what a temple night is, but feel free to just bounce off each other and
For sure. Yeah.
or if you want to start, Elodie, either one.
Well, no, it's not an orgy. It's my definition, or my take on temple, because I had exactly the same question when my friend said to me, oh, come to temple. I was like, oh my God, is there just going to be people fucking everywhere? And it's like, that's quite intimidating.
Yeah, maybe if you want to share your first experience you were sharing about.
My first experience with temple. Wow, it was very eye-opening. I went by myself, which, I don't know, in hindsight, I'm like, whoa, that's pretty, like, it's pretty brave of me. So I went on my own, and it was just like a calling. It just, I don't know what it was. I had a few friends who had been, who were also friends with the facilitators as well. And it just called me one time. So I went there and got super triggered in one of the activities, and I think I was like going into the freeze response. Knowing what I know now in hindsight, I think I was going into the freeze response. So yeah, that was like pretty full on for me, but I utilized the skills and the tools of regulation of my nervous system that they taught me and managed to avoid that, which was good. So I did sort of enjoy the experience. There were some things that I did enjoy, but then after temple, like, it took me a while to actually integrate what had actually happened and to process like how I actually felt about it all, because I did still feel like a bit of sexual shame there from, like just going to a space like that. So I guess like I was processing that and just sitting with that, but then it actually, like, amongst other things that happened around that time, it sort of led me onto like a sacred celibacy journey.
Is it just like swinging the pendulum?
Yeah,
from one to the other.
Yeah. But it was actually exactly what I needed.
So I've had enough sexual energy to do me for the next 6 months in that one night.
Nothing. And yeah, it was just like another layer of my healing that I needed to go through. But then, like, months down the track of being in that celibacy label, I guess, like the stirrings of my dark feminine started to rise up, and that sacred sexuality, like the energy started to like really come into my life, and I was just like, okay, cool, like it's now time to go back to temple and explore this in a safe and sacred space with people who we all understand the very basics of boundaries and consent and asking for what we want and don't want, and speaking
just
in
quickly,
love.
what is the freeze response for those who don't know what it is?
Yeah, so the freeze response is one sympathetic nervous system involuntary response, whereby, like, when our nervous system is so activated or we get triggered by something that reminds us of a situation that perhaps we'd had in the past, it sort of like shuts down, it freezes, and it is a self-protective mechanism. It is actually like our body's way of protecting us. It's just not very pleasant in the moment. So it's like your reptilian brain, that prehistoric sort of part of the brain takes over, and all logical thought like goes out the window. You sort of like don't know like what to say, you can't speak, and it's just like very like heavy energy. So basically what's happening is that it's just an overload of your nervous system, and then what counteracts that is having the tools or being in a safe space where there's facilitators who are trauma aware, who can then assist you
and
in
notice that that's what's happening.
What's happening, and assist you in regulating your nervous system again and coming back to like that homeostasis,
back into your body.
back into your body.
Yeah, cool.
Fight, flight, freeze.
And fawn.
Fawn.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think a lot of people have heard of fight or flight, but they don't so much hear about the others. And like it's I'd like to, because we've talked already about maybe doing a part 2 of this, because I want to get more into the depths of this kind of idea as well. But we've already got so much to talk about in the temple. But yeah, I just think it's really interesting and sometimes even a bit confusing, because like I'm very logical, and you know, me thinking, okay, fight or flight has an action attached to it, but like freeze, it's like body just checks out.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, don't want to be
possum.
here. Bye bye. Yeah.
It's like a possum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's why I think as well I really wanted to chat to you both, because yeah, I feel you hold a really beautiful space and you're going about this the right way, because yeah, it is a lot of responsibility, and yeah, you even noticing that you didn't really maybe get the aftercare.
Yeah, like
needed?
I didn't really know what happened to
Yeah.
me in that situation. I got the care that I needed in the temple space with
Yeah.
the facilitators, but I guess afterwards I didn't really know what I needed. So perhaps that could have contributed to the pendulum swing. But it
And
all
it's
happened
tricky as well, like
as it was
as you guys
supposed
will
to.
obviously be aware of and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
I want to ask more about that, but we'll get to Rhi first on maybe how'd you end up getting into temple, and what would you describe it as to people?
Yeah, I've got some good practice doing this lately, having so many questions about the upcoming temple. Yeah, my first experience, I kind of felt like a little bit the opposite to what you'd experienced. It was like this stepping into this powerful woman who I'd been shamed on and slut shamed and all these horrible things growing up, and so much shame attached to my sexuality and ever being super expressive.
Yeah.
And it was just so beautiful coming into the space and feeling like myself. It was like I'd come home. It was like I had this epic outfit on, like I was dressed as like I had a leopard print, and I'm walking around with my 9 tails and like kind of walking around the space like, right, who can I have some fun with? And it was like, wow, this is what it feels like to be totally comfortable and in my power. And that was only possible because of the incredible facilitation, and how lucky we are now to co-create with Nick.
Yeah, with
So
Nicole Delaney.
honoured.
Yeah.
So honoured. So
Yeah.
Nick is the centerpiece to this real like unfolding in my life. And she created that safety. So she pre-framed a lot of this stuff about nervous system and the regulation of our nervous system and what to do if you do become triggered. You know, went through the different responses, and that's what we're going to do in our temple to create that container and give people the tools on what to do when they leave, right, on integration. So just be aware, you know, this could happen tomorrow. It could happen next week. You might go, oh, actually there's something that's moving inside of me, and it could be one of those responses. So that's a big focus, because yeah, in the temples after the very first one I went to with Nick, at Taste of Love, same, double trigger within 5 minutes, and it was a consent workshop. It wasn't even a temple, and it was just like, wow, okay, these spaces are potent.
Yeah.
Potent for healing and showing you the shadows and inner child stuff. Like anyone who's had a little bit of like delved into a bit of the healing work would be like, okay, wow, if you ever want to face some parts of yourself, these spaces will show you within a second where you feel jealous, where you might feel not seen, inadequate,
self-worth issues,
all of it.
self-confidence, body issues. Yeah.
And I think that's the thing. I think a lot of people
It's
go into these
wow.
being like, "Oh, cool, this is just a great place to hook up." It's like, and then you have to deal with like, all your shit.
Yeah.
My favorite saying on that is people will come for what they want and get what they need.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
And I feel like these spaces will lure you in because you're like, oh, a little bit sexually curious, and you're like, oh, I've always wanted to like, you know, be in my power, or I've always wanted to play with some different people that isn't my partner, but we've wanted to go open. And then they'll be like, oh, okay, whoa.
Yeah.
This is so much more than a hookup.
Yeah.
Or an orgy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a swingers party. Like it's so different.
It's so different
to those spaces.
It's got that like that conscious like relating aspect to it. And I just before we continue, I just wanted to pay respect and tribute to Sarah, Nick, and Caitlin for these temples that we attended, the Enrapture pleasure temples that we attended on the Sunshine Coast.
Absolutely.
Before all of them went their own ways, and so as since Nicole has then reached out to Rhi and I to then start Erotic temples. So that's sort of of where the transition has gone, but I just wanted to
thank
definitely
you.
mention them for allowing, giving us this space to access temple, for us to then grow into our own sexual healing journey.
Absolutely.
So it's like we're taking on the torch from those incredible women. So
it's an absolute honor to be
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is a dream
And
come
I love
true.
that you guys see it that way, and see it as like a community venture, because I haven't actually been able to make any of the ones that they were running here on the Sunshine Coast, but I used to go to some of the ones down the Gold Coast, which were mainly run by Victoria Redbard and Danny Redbard at the time, and I found myself driving 3.5 hours, so it was probably like a 4.5 hour round trip, just to be part of the community. Even some of the nights that weren't actual temple spaces, it was just hangouts every fortnight. I find myself just wanting to be around those kind of people who just showed up however they were. And it's exactly like just talk, I appreciate that you both here in general, but especially, talking about, you might have had a big day, and it's just I think people think they need to show up at their best, and how often are we actually at our best? And I think that's a really beautiful invitation to just show up how you are, and it will show up differently as well. Because I think I like that though, that people might go in expecting something, but get something completely unexpected. I see it similar to, deep breathwork journeys or even plant medicine journeys.
100%.
Yes.
And I think that's where true magic lies, when you go in and you get things that you didn't even know you needed, because that's why, especially being part of community and group spiritual work, is different to solitary, because you've got people there to help you find your blind spots, but you just got to, obviously take it carefully and make sure that the facilitators are there for everyone's highest good, which I truly believe you both are. So I'm really excited
I think
for
we are
this.
too.
I think so too. Absolutely.
We'll find out. Stay tuned. We'll do one after the night.
Please.
So
So it's not an orgy.
so just to circle back, what is the difference, if you had to define it, between an orgy and a temple? So if you were ChatGPT, if you were writing a Wikipedia post or something about it, what would you say to someone?
I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I would focus heavily on the fact that it's pre-framed around boundaries and consent, that there's such a strong focus on only doing exactly what you just said, meeting yourself in the space with what you need in that moment. Maybe yesterday you really felt like, touching lots of people and being super sensual, but maybe when you get there on the night, it's something completely different, and that's so welcomed in the space. And I think because it's such a facilitated experience in terms of there's activities, there's connection games, there's
so what is the usual flow of the evening? So you start off with consent, because there's a mini workshop before it as well.
Yes, that's new addition. So they didn't used to do the consent and boundaries
Not
workshop
all of
at the
them.
start, but we've decided to do a 2-hour workshop that focuses on the wheel of consent, and really going deep into what it feels like. What does it feel like to really want something, and what does it feel like in your body to not want something, and what is the difference?
I love that. I think that's a great idea. Because then I guess people are more comfortable with each other as well. Because I've been to some where, it was just a lot of random people and people didn't know each other. But then I've also been to some where we've done a lot of connection exercise and games, not necessarily right before it, but in the past. And so we've seen each other at our ugliest, kind of thing. And so we were just, it was a completely different vibe. I love that you're doing that. And so we're going to do some consent exercises.
Yep.
Did you want to
go
on and chime in?
And then, the consent and boundaries. So we do lots of games, as Rhi said, just feeling into the different energies of the wheel of consent. So the taking and allowing energies, and the serving and accepting energies. So what they feel in your body, and the difference between them all. I think that's really important for us to know.
Which is something that I was never aware of.
If you're not aware of this. And,
insane.
And the wheel of consent is so beautiful. It's so complex at the same time as being so simple. it doesn't just relate to anything to do with sex or intimacy. It's to do with anything in life,
Absolutely.
isn't it? And even just having that awareness and that knowledge and what those energies feel like in your body, you can go out, you know, into the world and just, you know, come from this completely different embodied space. So we really work on like doing different games so that you can embody those energies, so that you can really know what they feel like inside yourself.
Yeah, and so I love what you touched on, like very transferable skills to the outside
transferable.
world. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like training for life.
Totally.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They don't give us relationship training. Well, I didn't get
No.
relationship training in school. You know, like
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
maybe
Exactly.
not do these exact kind of ones in
Yeah,
school, but
that's
like
it.
you know, you should get consent and
Yeah.
relationship training.
That's it. And then, so after the boundaries and consent workshop, then we have a short break. We provide some food, some snacks, some drinks, no alcohol or drugs though.
Dinner. We're doing a
We're doing a dinner.
Oh, the
Yeah,
snacks
there's
at
a
dinner.
fed.
You get fed because, you know, it is, food
Gotta be
is good
nourished.
for, you know, learning new things.
So that's afterwards?
So that's after
Yep.
the
Oh,
consent
that'd be great because
workshop.
that kind of,
Yeah.
I guess, like allows for integration time and
Totally.
stuff as well. Yeah, I love
Totally.
that.
Yeah.
Have a bit of chit chat,
Yeah.
you know, just some relaxed time.
Yeah, and then we go into temple. So there is also the option there, if people are a little bit put off by temple itself, you can come to the consent and boundaries workshop only. And then if you choose to stay for temple, you're welcome to upgrade
cool.
to that ticket, which is a nice option if you're sort of curious about this stuff, but you don't want to go straight into temple. And then we go into temple, which is like more games, partner activities, a lot of like drop-ins with our nervous system safety. So we're big on,
Being embodied.
being
In your body,
embodied,
not in your mind.
sort of like tantric principles of sound, breath, movement, and touch, so that you're really dropped in and centered. And then after that is the invitation for open play space. So you've got the chance to try out your newfound embodied tools to then practice with other people in the space. And we have different areas set up for different activities. Us three facilitators.
Yeah, cool. I'd love
will
it
be
to get
there.
into the different
So,
areas because
yeah.
I think that's one misconception that people have that go as well, in that they need to show up in a certain way. Like, for example, some of the ones I've been in, monogamous couples will just go because they want to experience, having sex or relating in a group situation. Some go single and just see what happens. Some go in like a group and they'll kind of stick to themselves. Some people, go through their processes in the corner of the room with helpers or without helpers. Sometimes like some of them I've been in is just, I just wanted to be in the space to observe and just to notice what's coming up for me while I'm observing, like whether I have judgments, whether I have envy and all these
totally.
different things.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I feel there's always something to gain from it depending on what you're going into as well. So what are some of the spaces that you've got set up there?
Well, we will have the regulation station set up.
Very important.
Very
Regulation station.
Regulation station.
So that's the
Are you
area.
gonna get train sounds? Everybody on board.
I'm sure that would be someone's kink.
Just get it like a big Thomas the Train Engine section.
So that's always a station set up for if you feel that your nervous system is going into a bit of overwhelmed, you're welcome to sit down over there and just go through the grounding techniques that we teach you in the Boundaries and Consent workshop. And then what
There's
else will
wax.
we have?
We'll have like
Wax
a
play.
massage table with like massage oil. We'll have wax.
Yep.
Like proper body wax
Yep.
and candles.
Yep.
There's going to be a chair that
chair.
you can like tie yourself to, and
Yep,
like
be
we have
pleasured.
a bunch of props.
Yep.
So like
Yep.
floggers, paddles,
You can try
all
out
kinds
all
of
those
like
things.
sensation items.
Yeah.
Like bear claw
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
The meat cleaver things. It's not as scary as it sounds,
not
I
as scary,
promise.
yeah.
It feels like fingernails.
These
Yes.
are all optional, by the way.
Yes, all of this stuff
100%.
is optional. There's no expectation to do anything in the
yeah.
space. Oh, and by the way, the temple is a non-penetrative sexual space. That
Yes.
is one
Yeah, okay.
thing that we
Yeah.
are not do not have.
But
in
nudity
the space.
is
But nudity is
encouraged.
encouraged. Everything else is welcome.
Yeah. Genital touch?
Genital touch is okay.
Okay.
Yep. So obviously, you know, throughout the night we'll get you all into your body, regulating nervous system, and then whatever you want to play with.
Yeah,
Cool.
and everything's an
desires
invitation.
are.
Yeah, and that leads into
invitation.
one of my other questions as well, because we were talking earlier that, you know, any kind of traditional practice often shows up in different ways depending on who it's, I guess, channeled through, depending on who, like what aspects of it, like whether it's yoga, anything. So yeah, I'd love to talk about your flavors of, and I love that you're doing it together as well, because you get this kind of concoction, this kind of cocktail of things, because I have been to spaces where penetration is not allowed, but I've also been to more, and this was a more like community focused one where everyone kind of knew each other and there was new people in the space, but penetration was allowed. So I think it's great that we're talking about all these different things. It's like a little FAQ, frequently asked questions thing, of what people can expect, because I think a lot of people just don't know, and not only don't know what maybe a temple is in general, but what is your version of the temple as well. And so I'd love to hear, what are some things that you you don't have to name where this was, but things that you did enjoy that you maybe going to bring into yours, and things that you're maybe going to bring in that others haven't, and what maybe from experiences that you've had you'd be like, oh, I would have loved this. So I'd love to know as well, if you want to share.
Yeah, I love that. So the things that I really loved was that Nick was super playful. She was energetic. She brought a little bit of humor and lightness to the space. I feel like sometimes in the conscious community it can get very serious. And a bit, you could kind of cut the tension with a knife kind of vibe. So she had a very relaxed vibe. So you just felt like this out breath of like, you could just be yourself, She swears, she's like big personality, and it was just like, we really clicked. So
humor is so underrated.
It's so important.
Yeah, because like I was chatting about this with a friend recently about how, if you think of your really most intimate relationships, it's usually people that you can be the most silly and ridiculous with. But whereas like, sexuality is portrayed on TV as super serious and smoldering and all this sort of stuff. It's like, yes, it has a place, but cool. I'm all down for some playfulness.
And her laugh is amazing. Her laugh makes everyone laugh. So that's who.
It's the best laugh ever. Amazing. What a vision. And something different that I would say that I'm bringing to the space is that I'm a performer. So my other little side hustle is a dancer and performer at festivals and clubs. So I'm going to be adding that into the space. So when we go into the open play space, I'm going to have my fans and props, and I've got like a pistol whip or like a pixel whip thing. It's like a fiber optics whip. It's really cool. And just do some really like sensual movement and just kind of, I don't know, open up the space so that, because it'll be a really big, huge circle, because I reckon we'll probably have about 50 or 60 people. So I'll be in the middle, just kind of like opening up the space and like inviting movement and flow, and because that's kind of my background is like movement and just kind of, moving the energy around and so I think that's probably something that, I don't know if that's been done before.
No, I love that.
We're going to give it a go.
Analogy that I'm kind of seeing, like, because you're making all these actions, if you're not watching the video, you're missing out. But it's almost like cooking, right? You kind of get everything, all the ingredients together, and you set up the right space and things to get cooking, and then you kind of just get it moving, and then you just need to check on it. Be like, oh, I don't want to leave it too long. I just need to stir the pot a little bit and all that sort of thing. So I guess it's like, really trying to get the energy moving, and then you kind of just nudge it when it needs to be nudged. So that's really cool, because it is like an aesthetic thing as well, like the atmosphere, the feel of everything. And I do see it as like a ceremonial ritual, in that when I'm doing magical rituals, especially in a group format, I really want to make it appealing and make it feel like we're in that atmospheric thing. And confidence and conviction is contagious, right? If you have that confidence and you're giving permission for everyone else to just get into like whatever characters or whatever feel they want, then that's going to translate a lot more than someone who is just kind of like, all right guys, this is what I'm gonna do, go. You know what I mean? It's just good that you've got that experience, and Elodie, you've got a bit of experience in facilitating stuff as well?
Yeah. Over the years of running my holistic business, facilitating different things, not anything really like this before, but I guess something that I guess what I feel I can bring into the space, which may be different, is, you know, working with these energies, like especially this sort of sexual energy, is something I really love doing, like really, you know, focusing on channeling the energy from the sacral chakra or the sex center up into the heart to then feel, you know, that sort of sexual energy, channeling it to a different space rather than focusing on orgasm or ejaculation for men. Like, you know, really working with that sort of tantric energy, and we learnt about this in this course that we've just recently completed in February, sort of like a tantric massage course. So yeah, that's something that I really enjoy working with and improving my skills in that area, because I think, you know, we're so much more than just this physical body, as most of you listeners would be aware, if you listen to Daniel's podcast often. So yeah, I guess really helping people to experience that within their own bodies, and playing with that energy as well, being super playful. Again, it doesn't have to be also serious. It can be really like playful and fun. But yeah, so that I think is what I'm going to be bringing into the space.
I love that. I just wanted to add on that. That's so perfect, because I feel like that is the essence of Temple. It's taking the focus away from orgasm. I feel like so much of what we have learned growing up, if we've learned anything, is just go, finish line, all I'm thinking about is coming. And let's just get there, right? But it's like, this is the first time you've been given permission to go, oh, what does it feel like to just touch my hand really softly? And you're like, oh my God, that actually feels really good. And it might be the first time for people that they've ever sensually touched their body that wasn't their genitals, and going, I can feel, and then it just opens up this whole possibility that you can feel pleasure just from brushing your arm against a table accidentally one time, and you're like, you know, and then this whole realm becomes possible to you.
And the encouragement of communication in that space as well, because I love that you guys are going to give people tools to communicate and share their experiences. I think people just don't have a language around it, and, you know, more of this idea of transferable skills, because then they can go outside of that and be like, oh, actually, I not only realized I like this, but I also learned how to communicate that to a future partner, because so many people that I talk to don't communicate that to their partners, because either they don't know how, or they don't know how to do it in a gentle way where they don't take it personally. And also just for both men, women, non-binary, like all different genders to be in this space together and to witness, share and experience these things together, because we all also like tend to do it quietly. Like we, you know, we have self-pleasure practices where we kind of figure out what we want individually, but then we have a hard time translating that into how we relate with people. And even more so in a group environment, that's like completely taboo. Like, because, you know, people don't talk about sex. Like, this is something we keep behind closed doors, etc. Like, it's, I think it's just going to be such a nourishing space in so many different avenues. But yeah, so what are some... if you want to share some examples of transferable skills that you've gained from here, is there any times you can think of where you've had a realization, and that realization has taken you out and improved it, like whether it's just general day-to-day life, you're relating, your own personal practices, because I think as well, I will really want to, in my own opinion, it's not just a place to get high and to have an experience, but it's also to shift and to change and to take that into the outside world as well. So
absolutely.
Because I think a lot of people are just chasing these peak experiences, and not to belittle it, I'm sure it's going to be a hell of a time. It's also if you need it, you don't need it to come, but if you're one of those practical people, it's like, I need to make sure that this is for my greater good, and it's going to give me some tools to, like, you know, so I've got an excuse to go.
Absolutely.
So what are some transferable skills that you guys have experienced?
I guess for me, like, the thing that pops up is like asking for what I want and not being afraid of being rejected was one, but also the belief of what I was asking was too much, or like being too much for somebody. I've had this story my whole life of like I must be like contained, like in my box, like I can't be too much, I can't put too much pressure or ask too much of expectations, blah blah blah, of anyone else. So for me, like Temple really taught me, and all of the games that we played, all of the activities and relating with different people that I've had there, it's just taught me like if like to really speak into my desires, and if someone says no, then that's okay. Like that's fine. But if they say yes, and it's just like, okay, just trusting that they have those skills then and the knowledge that I have also learned to be able to say no or change their mind or state their boundaries if they change later on, so that I can fully trust that like I don't have to keep checking in with them and feeling like, oh, is this too much for you? Is this too much? Because then I'd know that they would say if it was too much. Does that, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
100%, because we just default to, you know, when we're in uncomfortable situations, we just default to what our usual, like, path of least resistance is, right?
Yeah.
And I noticed that even teaching just contact dance, I actually run people through an exercise where all they're doing is saying no to each other. So, so people are going around and getting rejected.
Yeah.
But then, like, it helps both people because you see, it's like, it's not personal. You know, you never know what's going on, you know, and same with saying no. And then you go through and say yes. And you also notice what comes up as well.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is when you're like forced to say no or forced to say yes, and then when you notice how that feels in your body when you wanted to dance with that person, or you wanted to, or you didn't, but then you say the opposite, it's learning how to, like, what is intuition as well. And so, like, if you never know what your true intuitive compass is without doing these exercises, so it's just so many skills to have.
So many skills that can be taken away from Temple and the consent.
That should just be taught to us in general.
100%. Well, speaking of asking for what I need, is it okay if we turn the fan down?
Oh, yeah. I forgot it was actually on.
Here's me speaking my truth.
There we go.
Right.
See?
Amazing.
This is a transferable skill, you see?
Exactly, yeah.
Not people pleasing. Yeah, I love that. I love everything you just said. And yeah, for me, stepping into these spaces has taught me invaluable skills. I feel like where you show up and how you show up sexually is how you show up in the rest of your life. So if you show up in your sex life asking for what you need, in openness, in vulnerability, in respect, in love, that just transmutes out. Like, this is life force we're talking about here. Like, this is energy that literally creates life. That's how potent this energy is. It's not called sex magic for nothing. Like, this stuff, it transmutes.
Yeah.
And since walking this path, I mean, I feel like it's kind of been like this ever since I was active from, you know, when I was a teenager. But really in the last kind of year, I just feel like I've been able to, like, ask for what I need in my job, in my relationships. My personal sex life and relationships have just gone, like, tenfold amazing in terms of, like, communication and the experiences that we've been able to create, not just in the bedroom, but going away on trips together, making sure that both of our needs are met. And these are incredible skills for like conversation and being able to, like, set boundaries and knowing that it's okay to say, I'm actually not comfortable with this.
And feeling in your body what your boundary is.
It's amazing.
Letting your body communicate to you rather than the mind.
Yeah. And when your body says no, going, oh, that's a no. Okay. And then saying it, and then having it met with someone who also understands this work and saying, thank you. Yes. Thank you for speaking your truth and honoring your boundary. And it's like, oh, it's not scary. It's not scary to say what I need. Wow. And yeah, that has been such a potent piece for me, is being able to, say no.
Say no.
And say yes. And ask for what I want.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not too much for me to want to, like, be a queen and worship. Sweet.
Yeah.
Amazing.
and even for people to receive that and, like, see that show up in other relationships and be like, oh, people actually want this. I have a feeling now that when my ex-partner, or, you know, that didn't work out for some reason, it's because that she wanted this and I didn't know how to give it to her, and maybe she didn't know how to ask for it. And, you know, and then when that shows up later, they not only have the awareness that this might be something similar, but also how to communicate and talk about it. And they might actually be able to help that person to that. And it's like, and then it helps the next person, and just trickles
100%.
out. And I feel like so many other things, you know, for example, I got into sales early, right? And so what a lot of sales is asking people for things in certain ways and, you know, finding if it's the right fit for them, and to try to obviously, you know, hopefully not too evilly convince people to you know, purchase things that you're selling. But essentially,
Steer them in a direction.
I've only ever
I
used
want.
my skills for good, I swear. But it's a similar thing. So what we used to do every morning, we used to do like training like scenarios, right? Where we would go through a certain step of a conversation, and when we met conversation like parts that we would, you know, because usually people, when they're asked for something and someone says no, that's like, okay, so someone would knock on a door and be like, hi, I'm here, like I have this great thing, and they're like, no, and like, okay, bye. But when really it's like, oh, you know, what are you saying no to? Do you understand this? And it's actually creating new neural pathways, because
Absolutely.
like when otherwise we're just repeating our same cycles and patterns. In martial arts, for example, right, we have a usual way of moving. When someone, you know, was to throw something or grab you, you might have a natural freeze response. You might have a natural like cover and curl up in a little ball response, right? And that's not very effective. And so how do we change that pattern? We run that scenario over and over again in a safe environment, and slowly we're like damming up that river and then creating a new path for that water to flow through. And so we're actually seeing how our relating styles are playing out in a real world scenario in a safe environment with people who can actually help us to create new rivers in our brain and life.
100%.
And so you guys are, like I'm trying not to get too overly passionate, because you guys, I think, are similar. It's like, you know how you get like passionate about something, you see the possibilities and the benefits of it, and you just want to like shake people.
Yes.
Yeah. But I mean,
I am there right now.
but
Every day.
it's generally not very effective. I mean, the odd person is just like, that was a great shake. Thank you for that. But most people just like, that's not going to work
You just gotta
out.
lead by example, really, and like
Yes.
you doing the work, you know, you're healing layers of like your shit, and then it's like you're then vibrating a different frequency, and people who are ready for this are gonna just to be attracted to
1,000%.
to that.
Yeah.
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 But like temple like is so interesting with like the history of it.
I wanted to get into that. So we were trying to do a little bit of research before it, so just also pre-framing that it's actually very difficult to find like everyone, there's lots of different opinions on where this came from, so we might do that more of that in the part 2. But I'd love to hear from what you guys have experienced and seen and heard where this stuff originates from.
So I mean, as I mentioned before, Rhi and I have gone down into Newcastle and done a 5-day conscious sexuality experience practitioner course with EJ Love and Anna Morrigan, and that was just like amazing. The best, like, for me personally, the best like 5-day course I think I've ever done in my whole life. But we did go into a brief history of like the temple priestesses, and sort of like, you know, thousands of years ago, like pre-Christian times, when the matriarchy, is that the word? Matriarchy? Yeah.
When women rule?
When the women rule. So there was like, you know, the temples of Isis and Avalon and in Corinth, and where these men would come home from battle or fighting, and they would come to these sacred temples for their own sexual healing. So, you know, the priestesses would heal them of their, I guess, their battle demons through the use of channeling that energy through different practices with breath and meditation. I mean, I can only assume I wasn't alive back then, but maybe maybe in a different life form I was probably a temple priestess, I'm sure. And I mean, largely it was very much hidden and covered up by the church, and then, you know, these sacred temple priestesses were then painted as whores and sluts and it'll sort of change.
But we've reclaimed that
But
word.
we're reclaiming it. Sacred slut.
Absolutely.
Put sacred on the beginning of every word.
perfect.
So yeah, it was very much a space of sexual healing, which, as Rhi mentioned prior, is the life force energy that is within all of us, and that is the creative energy of the universe, which I'm sure it is. I'm just saying that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, every different lineage, yeah. Like, I
from
mean,
lineage,
in the
yeah.
lineage of Tantra that I teach, like, Kundalini is like the lifeblood and life force of
yeah.
everything. And people associate Kundalini with sexual energy, but really, like, it's just an energy and you can use it for what you want. But,
Yes.
like, you know, a lot of people channel, like, sexual, I'm doing air quotes, sexual energy into creativity and things, but it's all interlinked. And I think that's the thing. We're trying to normalize this. And I think that's the important part, that, like, you know, we have reality shows about cooking, right? Like, when are we going to have reality shows about, you know, I mean, we kind of do it in some aspects, like, what is it, like Love Island and all that sort of stuff.
Dating naked.
Yeah, exactly. But
Naked and afraid.
Yeah,
So-
naked
Yeah.
and afraid.
I think at the moment it just has an emotional charge for a lot of people because it is still a taboo topic. And so it is important, like, it's even more important because of that, but it may seem a lot bigger than it actually is. And I think once we get to the point where this is just so much more normalized and people can get a recommendation from the doctor to go to a temple night because they need to start integrating more parts of themselves. I'm not a doctor, by the way. I'm not saying that that's like something that you need. This is not financial advice.
Sex doctor.
So yeah, just framing a lot of things that we're just we've obviously all got a lot of benefit from these practices, and just trying to open up conversations around them, because I think it's really important.
Yeah, it's a whole rabbit hole.
It
Once
is.
you dive down into it,
It's a whole rabbit.
there's so much.
It's a whole bunny.
Yeah. But they're really sacred places. Yeah.
Good summary. Yeah.
Good summary. Cool.
Yeah.
So I'm just checking the time. Cool. So as we approach the tail end, so I would really like to talk about, I guess, how do I phrase it? What kind of people do you think would benefit most from this? Like, and I think how would someone approach? I'm losing my words. It's been a long day. So, yeah, what kind of people would benefit from this, and what would you recommend people do to prepare for this, if they need to do anything at all to prepare for this?
Whew. What kind of people? I mean, anyone. Yeah, there's not a particular, like, profile. Like, I know in sales, you're like, right, who's my target audience?
Yeah.
I don't know if there is a target audience. It's really exactly what Elodie said. It's anyone who's ready to receive and open enough to be able to drop in, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's a pretty challenging space to be in. So I feel like you have to have a certain level of comfortability.
So I'll reframe. How does one know if they are ready for this? Because I think that, like, if anyone...
Yeah.
Because, I think, like, there's not... Personally, I don't think there's any really being ready for it. You just kind of come into this. Because
it's the inner stirrings of curiosity. Ooh.
Yeah.
That little, like, teaser, you know, like the little
You
tantalizing...
feel like something warm inside.
Yeah, the little,
Like,
ooh, that sounds juicy.
Sounds exciting.
Yeah.
And leaning into that and like, you know, kind of jumping off the, like, and I'm doing quotations marks now, like the metaphorical edge, you know, and like jumping off that cliff into the unknown.
Yeah.
And just going, okay, there's a possibility here of something really exciting and challenging. Just go for it.
Yeah.
Just jump in. Just give it a go. If it's something that you've always thought, oh, it'd be fun to just, like, insert whatever it is that, you know, has called you, just go for it. Give it a go, and it's a space open enough and safe enough that you can choose whether or not to participate. There's people there to support you.
Yes.
You know,
There's
and that's the
always
difference,
choice.
right? That's the difference between this and an orgy or like a sex party, you know? It's
Yeah, it's really about empowering you to make the choice for yourself, what you're willing to say yes or no to. And, you know, because a lot of women have been disempowered by whatever situations. Men as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, speaking from women, like it's quite...
For sure. There's so much shame and there's so many layers in that. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, anyone who feels the call, the tingles in their loins, come
play.
Come and play.
Yeah,
and
come
explore. And yeah, like if you have any desires or fantasies or anything like that, bring them into the space. Speak into them. Give voice to them, because pretty sure that there would be someone else there who's thinking or wanting a similar thing, or to receive or give something that you're looking for. So
1,000%. Yes, absolutely.
Always the opportunity there.
Yeah, and I think, like being in a group setting and voicing these things, obviously, like depending on where you're at, how much you want to say in the space, but I actually did a podcast with someone recently, and she mentioned that she's pretty sure I was the first male to chat to her on a podcast, because she mainly works with women, but we were both sharing how it's really beautiful that we have these men's circles and women's circles, but often we don't get to hear the other take on things, and I think it's really important that we start to hear, because otherwise we end up just in a bit of an echo chamber sometimes, where we're not really, you know, men might assume that they know what women want. Women might assume what them, and like we might, but I think it's good to actually hear it and be in that space, because even just while someone else is sharing, you know, they might get a, you know, kind of click in their body like, oh wow, I never saw it from that perspective before. Now I might understand how my partner is feeling in that moment.
Yeah.
And even just to either share something that you've desired or your experience and have someone else to be like, you know, that me too, or the other way around, someone, you know, you wanting to be like being so ashamed or being so introverted or wondering if you're weird for some certain thing, and then you have like 3 other people who are all voicing that, and you're like, oh wow, I'm not alone. Like we humans are all so similar, or we're all just like weird creatures that are just trying to figure out what we're doing here and trying to have a good time doing it. And respecting each other during that journey as well.
And couples are more than welcome to come as well. Like
for sure.
You know, like if you feel that, you know, you'd like to explore different dynamics or situations in your relationship, and you feel the call, obviously have a good chat with your partner before coming on boundaries and consent. But yeah, like we do, you know, couples are welcome, singles.
Absolutely.
Anyone really, any age is welcome.
Over 18.
Over 18, sorry. Should rephrase that. Over 18, yes.
Like,
so
it's beautiful, and let's normalize it, right?
Yeah.
These spaces, and this is what I love about this podcast. And again, thank you for opening up the opportunity to talk about this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, let's just normalize this conversation.
Yeah.
And I've been sharing this and answering these questions with my family, with my friends. They're going, what is temple?
Everyone's so intrigued.
What is this thing you're doing? Like, Rhi, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And it's been really cool. And it's like seeing those ripples go out. People are like, oh, that's possible?
Yeah.
I can do that? I'm allowed to ask for what I want, and I can step into these spaces. How exciting. So it's breaking down that taboo and those layers. I mean, we've come, if you think how far we've come, like, think back only like, 30 years of what was considered normal, and women, what they would wear.
Yes.
And I mean, this is still going in other countries, but I mean, right now in the Western world, I can only speak from that perspective, is we've come so far, but again, so far to go.
Yeah.
But I think the more we do this, the better, and the more we can, make people feel safe to access their pleasure.
It's this creating the container of safety. To be able to express yourselves authentically.
Yeah, can you imagine if like a prerequisite to going to a nightclub was getting this kind of training? So you'd be like, okay, how to like approach people respectfully, how to take a no, how to ask for what you want, how to etc. Like we have no training in that. We basically just go, and then we see the people that are doing it maybe like successfully, air quotes. But there's just no training around that kind of thing. So I think this is just such an important topic. And it's funny actually, because like a lot of what I try to do, because I teach classical tantra, is trying to educate people that tantra is not all about sex, but yet I'm constantly bringing on people like who work in the like neo-tantric sacred sexuality. But I'm also just trying to level it out, because I think the more we bring it into the light, the more we normalize it, the less charge it has, and then the less like people get weird about it, and like the less we actually have to focus on it, because then we're transferring the skills, and like you guys were talking about, transferring our like sexual energy and sexual experiences so they can filter into every other part of our life, you know, because like it, you know, in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, or even in the chakra system, you know, like our sexual aspects, you know, when that's an issue, it filters into every aspect of life.
Totally,
I know when like you know, I'm not in touch with my sexuality, my creativity is just blocked, right?
Yes.
And there's just such a link. Like, but when I'm feeling really like open and liberated and inspired, that just filters into everything. It filters in my platonic relationships, into my like work ethic, into even into my finances, right?
I was just about to say that. So for anyone that
Yes.
doesn't know this, money and relationships energetically are the same.
Yeah.
So it's all about our capacity to receive and our deservingness.
Yeah.
It's how deserving are you?
Yeah.
And generally people who are struggling in one are also struggling in the other. So it's all about that receiving energy. So
And Temple
something
can help
little
with
nugget
learning to
take home.
receive. Yeah.
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 There you go. Temple might make you rich.
Sex Doctor 101.
Yeah.
There we go. Make that the title.
Yeah. Erotic Temple will make you rich in
You're a
many
sex
different
expert.
ways. Yeah.
Love it. Love
Cool.
it.
I think that's a pretty good way to kind of finish off for now. But yeah, we were talking about before the podcast that we'd love to do this at least once again and just have some more conversations. And we had lots of like epic fun conversations before this. So yeah, just before we end it, how can people reach both of you individually? And how can they find out information? I'm going to link everything in the show notes below, so you can feel free to just scroll down and click the button. But yeah, just a little bit about you two individually.
Yeah. So our next Erotic Temple is on Saturday, April 22nd. Yes, coming up. 2 weeks to today from the time of this recording. So Nicole will be flying up from Melbourne, and the three of us will be leading everyone through the consent workshop. It starts at 5 o'clock and goes until late, 5 p.m. and it goes till late. So you can jump on the
like Facebook or the tribe booking.
Yeah, we've got a Facebook event page up there. You can also join the Enrapture private tantric private Facebook group that they have.
It's like the conscious. We can add the link.
We'll add the link.
We'll
But
put it
it's
in the show notes.
a Facebook group which is great for the Sunshine Coast, and it has all the kind of like tantric events.
Tantric events,
And
sexuality events.
Is Instagram the best place to find you guys individually?
Yes,
as well?
Instagram for me, I'm Elodie Soul Quest. I'm also on Facebook, Sunshine Holistic Wellness, which is my business name, but I'm transitioning.
Yeah.
So.
Those names might change.
Those
So
names might
just go through
change.
I'll update
So,
I'll keep the
yes,
links updated
links
in the show notes.
You can also find Nicole's Instagram as well. It's just nick.coley.d, I think. Again,
and we were
it'll
talking about
be
getting
linked.
Nicole in as well to have a chat with her and getting, like, I think in the next one as well, get much more into the kind of somatic therapies and aspects as well. So
yes,
Amazing.
beautiful.
Yeah, and then my Instagram, just my name, the only one. Claimed that handle like back in 2013 when Instagram was first a thing.
and if they don't know how to spell it, do you want to spell
So
it?
RHIARNNA, so Rihanna. So
Rihanna.
that's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
Instagram
Cool.
probably the best way. Facebook is the same.
Yeah.
Just my name.
Yeah.
Again, it's a moving, evolving organism at the moment is my business. So, but for now,
And
it's just me.
that's a perfect like outlet just to finish off this thing that you guys are co-creating as well, or kind of taking on the torch from, is a living entity as well.
Absolutely.
Like it has a whole egregore aspect to it, and I also, like, I've spent time with you both individually, and, you know, you both have great individual energy and so much to bring. But I also just love your synastry as well. Like, the two of you together, it's just...
I know,
It's just... I'm so glad you guys are doing this together. And so...
It's like we've just like joined forces, and then we're like, oh, you want to do the same thing? Oh my god, me too. Let's do it together.
Yeah.
And then it's just sort of gone from there.
It's such a beautiful love story,
Yeah.
honestly. Like,
Yeah.
it's just amazing
And then
how
to
it's
have
happened.
Nick reach out to both of us,
Yeah.
you know, giving us this opportunity to
Yeah.
co-facilitate with her has been really exciting. So
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
powerful. This is, it's
Yeah.
going to be absolutely magical.
Yeah, so two of these women are, like, amazingly powerful individually, so I'm, like, super excited and, so grateful to be there to see what you guys alchemically co-create in your erotic cauldron that you've got.
erotic cauldron.
I love that.
It's like a witch's sex cauldron.
Perfect. We use that.
All right, well, thank you so much for both taking the time today, and I'm really excited to see how it all plays out, and we might have to do a part 2 after the first temple, and
We'll see you at temple, Daniel.
Yeah.
I will see you both at temple. So if you want to find out what happens, or I mean, we won't obviously share some things that happen in temple, so you're just gonna have to come.
Temple.
You're just gonna have to come. So international listeners, book your flights.
Yeah.
All right.
Amazing.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to and being a part of this episode of Make Yoga Magic Again, the House of Mages podcast. I've been your host, Daniel Erulian Cuming. Massive thank you to both Elodie and Rhi for being my guests of this episode, and you can find all of what they both do, and as well what we do here at the House of Mages, in the show notes below. I will speak to you very soon. Thank you again, and until then, make yoga magic again.